Hello, everyone. My name is Cal Clevenger. Sorry for that cheesy intro that we just watched, but we plugged this footage into our iMovie and they had a template already in there, and so we just plugged it in and that's what it kicked out. So, anyway, just a little bit about my hunting background. I'm from the South, if you can't tell, and I've hunted mainly whitetails when I was young. I killed my first deer when I was 8 out in Texas, but been fortunate enough to hunt all over North America, from Alaska all the way down Florida and beyond. But we used to own a ranch out in northern New Mexico, my father and I, and so we had an opportunity to hunt a lot of elk, and that was one of my favorite hunts to go on, was elk hunting, especially with my bow during the rut. So I'm a bow hunter mainly. Probably killed over 20 elk with my bow, and bears and mountain lions and moose in Alaska we've hunted, and caribou, and just all kind of different things over the years. But I wanted to talk just a little bit today about Africa, because it was only about a year and a half ago that I went on my first African safari with my bow. And after watching some YouTube videos, there's a lot of good stuff out there, but there's not a ton of stuff. And so I thought maybe I would just talk a little bit today about hunting Africa from a southern bow hunting perspective, and kind of let you know some of the things I've learned from doing that. I've been over there 3 times now, and I have another safari booked for next year. I'm filming this right now in August of 2023, so I have another safari booked for May of 24. But I've learned a lot from these hunts that I've been on over there, and a few things just don't get talked about a lot. One of the main things I want to cover at the end of the video is the costs. It is expensive to go to Africa, but there are some things you can do that would help a little bit, and just knowing the cost before you go will also help a good bit. They'll help you to plan and help you to save. I definitely want to say that going to Africa is worth it. If you can set the money aside, or set a goal for yourself, or set a different account up and put the money in. Some of the outfitters actually have a payment plan you can start paying on before you even go. So it is definitely worth it, especially from a bow hunter's perspective, because over here, especially in the South, when I'm hunting deer, we have a place in South Central Alabama that has a lot of deer. But, as I've gotten older, I've gotten picky, and so I don't pull my bow back very often. I mean, I might take 1 or 2 shots in a season, and we have a long season here in South Central Alabama. So when you go to Africa, you get to shoot a lot, and that is fun. And everything that comes in is different and exciting, and they may have a different aim point on the animal, and you need to know all of this stuff. So there's a bit of a learning curve. So we're going to just talk a little bit about that today. I've got some pretty good footage, but I wanted to also say that this is not a professional video. I'm editing this myself on my Mac computer, and the pictures that we've gotten are from a new iPhone set on high resolution. So we got some pretty good footage, but again, this is not a professional video that's put together by pros and edited, although we did edit it a little bit. So the other thing I'd like to say is that you won't be sorry if you go to Africa. I was a little skeptical at first, but when we went over there and we saw all the variety of animals and the opportunities to shoot with your bow, I was hooked. And I will say also that I've been 3 times, and each time I went with a bow hunting only outfitter. So these are not gun hunts at all. The only time a gun was even used if you're tracking a wounded animal and you may have to take a quick shot with a rifle just to put them down if you did not make a good shot with your bow. So another thing real quick, I shoot a Matthews Creed. It's one of their older models. It's not that old, but it's a few years old. Set at 72 pounds, and I shoot a 100 grain Rage hypodermic. I like the hypodermics that have the little collar on them, and the reason is when they open, they go right to the cutting edge of the blade. The ones without the collar have just a little flat spot on them before you get to the sharp blade, and I didn't like that. So anyway, I like the ones with the collar, even though you have to keep up with them. But they've been very effective on the African game that I've hunted over there. One other quick thing I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention is that the outfitter for this first hunt that we went on gave us the option of if we wanted to hunt by ourselves or if we wanted a professional hunter with us, which they call PHs over there. It stands for professional hunter. We opted to just do it by ourselves just for the fun of it. My wife went with me. She filmed for me. And we'll talk a little bit more about taking your wife later. But so we were in our blind by ourselves trying to figure it out. So we made some mistakes, and you'll see that in the first part of the hunting video. Thank you. So with having said all of that, let's get right into the video. I'm going to have a little bit of music playing on the video, but I'm going to try not to get it too crazy so that you're going nuts listening to music instead of hearing what's going on. But at first I'll show some of the scenery, and then I'll interrupt the video maybe 2 or 3 times. I'll try not to interrupt it much, but there's a few things I want to make sure and say as we get going. So I hope you enjoy it. Okay, this was our first morning hunting in Africa. It was very exciting. After all the travel and all the arrangements and all the planning, we were finally there. One of the first things that came in with this jackal, and we didn't shoot it, but we should have. We just wasn't quite sure, so we didn't shoot. My number one animal on my hit list was a gemsbok. I really like the coloration and the long straight horns. After watching some small impala and small water buck for a while, we had some gemsbok move in. These are beautiful animals. Because I was new at hunting Africa, it took me a while to decide which one to shoot and when to shoot. When I finally decided which one to shoot, I came to full draw. The gemsbok had started to move off. Unfortunately, I guessed him at 35 yards. He was only about 30, and my shot was high. The PHs looked for him all the next day, but never found him. Just remember, in Africa, if you shoot an animal, you have to pay for it whether you find him or not. While the PH and the trackers were looking for the Gemsbok, we had this nice warthog come in. I elected not to shoot just because I wasn't sure if I should shoot another animal while they were looking for the first one. This is a trophy warthog, and we never saw one bigger than this. The next day, we had some nicer impala come in. This impala on the left was only 18 yards away. Notice how much it moves and ducks before my arrow gets there. I wasn't planning on shooting a blue wildebeest this trip. Had I done my homework, I would have known that this is a real trophy and I should have shot. We also had a nice warthog come in this day. He was at 32 yards, so when I shot, he moved. My shot was a little high and a little far back. Fortunately, we hit an artery and it didn't go far. In Africa, they have a bird called the gray lory. Watch how these blessed buck respond when they hear the call of the gray lory. It's usually a warning call that something is coming. These are two nice blessed buck, but I was holding out for a Gemsbok, so I didn't shoot. One correction I wanted to make was I said my bow was at 72 pounds, and actually it was only at 62 pounds when I first went to Africa, but the second trip I cranked it up to 72 for more speed. After the two blessed buck left, we had two nice Gemsbok bulls come in. The bull on the left came in to 24 yards. Although he looked like he was perfectly broadside, When I shoot, you can tell from the angle of my arrow that he was actually quartering to me just a little bit. Therefore, my shot placement is still too far back. PH and trackers tracked this bull all day. They finally found it, but it was still alive. Even though the book shows this to be a good shot, you have to be aware of your angle of the animal. One of our favorite animals to watch and photograph is the giraffe. They are very graceful and very skittish. Okay, I'm going to interrupt here for one quick minute. I mentioned earlier I took my wife with me and she videoed, and it was very helpful to have someone else there to film for you so you didn't have to worry about it. My wife is not a hunter per se. She doesn't mind hunting and she has killed several animals. And in fact, the PHs at this particular place were very gracious and taught her how to shoot a crossbow, and she ends up shooting a very nice blue wildebeest that you'll see here in a few minutes. But I wanted to say that when we hunted at this place, this bow hunting only concession, that we went out about 8 o'clock in the morning and we didn't come back until dark. And so we were there 10 hours a day at least, and they would pack you a lunch and give you a portable toilet, and you were there for the day unless you shot something. For the non-hunter, that's a lot. And my wife got very bored by the end of our 10-day hunt. So what I'd like to recommend is if your partner that's going with you is not a hunter, then definitely look into doing some other activities besides hunting. We did that one day. She went to the spa. There was a very nice, like a 5-star spa close to where we were hunting, even though we were out in the middle of the bush. And she took a day off and went to the spa, took a day off from hunting. But it was still a lot for her to do, not being a hunter herself. So I recommend, if you take your spouse that's not a big hunter, is to arrange with the PH to come in at lunchtime. Now, a lot of those African animals move in the middle of the day. When it's the hottest, a lot of them will come in, especially if you're hunting over water. So you will spook animals coming back to your blind, but you don't want to have your wife miserable either while she's in Africa. So if you can come in for lunch, you get to use the bathroom, you get to relax, you get to sit by the pool. If your lodge has a pool, which most of them do, and you get to get something to eat, get a cold drink. It's just a nice break. So not all the hunters like to do that, or the PHs like to do that either, because the PHs make more money when you shoot stuff. And so that is a major advantage, but it's also a major concern of theirs. And so they will want you to hunt as much as you possibly can. Sometimes you have to say, we need a break. And that's fine to do that. So that's just, I'm going to show you a few pictures of the spa that she went to, and then we'll get back to the hunting. Okay, whenever you're ready. Oh, good shot. Oh, good shot. Okay, we said we would talk a little bit about cost, and so let's talk about that just for a minute. Normally in Africa, the way they charge you is by the day. They have a daily rate that they charge for hunting, and this includes your pH, your accommodations, all your food, normally sodas and non-alcoholic drinks. It also includes the trackers and the skinners and all of that. So the cost nowadays for doing that is somewhere between $300 and $400 a day for a hunter. So let's just say it was $350 a day. So I hunted for 10 days on this hunt. So that's $3,500. But my wife was with me also. So they normally have a cheaper rate for non-hunters, which that's about $150 a day. So that's another $1,500 for her. So that comes out to about $5,000 for hunting for 10 days, all inclusive, except for the trophy fees. In Africa, there's so many different animals, they can't just charge you one rate because they never know what you're going to shoot. And of course, if you shoot something and don't get it, then you have to pay for that as well. So in Africa, they charge a trophy fee per animal. And the trophy fees are not outrageous for most animals. Some of the animals, the trophy fee gets to be quite pricey. Where I was, they did not have elephants and lions, some of the big 5 or big 6 animals, but they did have Cape buffalo, which was their most expensive animal. They can be upwards of $10,000 a piece and more, just depending on the outfitter. But for plains game, we ended up shooting a Gemsbok, a blue wildebeest, an impala, and a warthog. That was on this video. So the Gemsbok was a male Gemsbok was $1,400. Blue wildebeest was $900. An impala was $400. Lots of impala over there. And warthog was $600. And there's a lot of warthogs also. So that's a total of $3,300 in trophy fees. So we paid $5,000 for our hunting for 10 days, and then we paid $3,300 for trophy fees. So that's $8,300. And then normally it's customary to tip your PHs, and they'll distribute the money anywhere from 10% to 20%, kind of like here in the States. But let's just say we tip them $1,000 for 10 days of hunting. So now we're at $9,300 for 10 days of African hunting with 4 animals down, and a wonderful experience. I mean, you'll just love it over there, you bow hunters. Take my word for it. But so that compares favorably to a $10,000 elk hunt. Now there are other costs, mainly airfare. Nowadays, in August of 23, like it is right now, about $2,000 is what it's going to cost you, depending on where you're flying from. I live in the South, and so we fly to Atlanta, and then we take a nonstop from Atlanta to Johannesburg on Delta. It's going to cost you about $2,000. After the first trip there, and after realizing I wanted to go back, I immediately got a Delta frequent flyer credit card and started running all my expenses through there. I now have flown to Africa once for free, and I have enough miles almost now for another ticket for free to Africa. So if you and your wife go, then you're looking at another $4,000 for travel. Now once you get there, they will pick you up and take you, and there's really no more expenses for you unless you do something special like the spa day that I was talking about, or if you go sightseeing, or there's some other activity you want to do that will cost an additional fee. So just to recap, the price for going to Africa for one person, not two, but just if you just went by yourself and hunted for 10 days, you're looking at $3,500 for hunting, $3,300 for trophy fees for these 4 animals, $1,000 for a tip, and $2,000 for airfare. So you're at $9,800. Keep in mind, if you go on an elk hunt, it's usually only 7 days. Usually the price of the outfitter does not include your license or travel either. So either way, you're pushing about the same amount of cost, but you get twice the experience, in my opinion. That's a lot of money to go on a hunting trip. I realize that, and it's also a lot of money to spend, if you just go on vacation. But if you're a hunter and you're going to spend a fair amount of money hunting anyway, Africa is definitely a great option to take. So that just a little bit of a breakdown on the money. It's not hard to figure. All you got to do is get the daily rate from the hunting concession, and then get a price list for their trophy fees, and then add in your tip and add in your travel. You may want to take an extra $500-600, maybe $1,000 for incidentals, but once you get to the lodge, there's not any incidentals to pay for. It's all inclusive in that price. One other price that you'll want to consider, and one other cost that you will have, is taxidermy. Taxidermy is not included in those prices that I gave you. I'm dealing with the taxidermy and shipping right now, and so I think what I will do is just maybe make a different video for that. It can be confusing, and there's a couple different options that you need to know about as far as preparing the hides, and whether you get them done over there in Africa or get them done over here, and shipping. And there's several things that we need to know about that. So maybe we'll do a separate video on that once I get all of those facts and numbers put in. Of course, you can spend as much as you want on taxidermy, just about, or you can go with European mounts and rough hides and that sort of thing, and do it very inexpensively. So that's another cost that you will incur if you decide to get stuff mounted and bring back. So I have 2 other hunts I'm going to put together and make a video for, so you can see how they went. And if you enjoyed this content, then like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll put up some more. Just so you know, my wife and I actually took a few extra days after this hunt and did a photographic safari, not a hunting safari, and stayed at a very nice lodge. Saw a lot of the things we didn't see when we were hunting. Saw crocodiles and hippos and rhinoceros and elephant, and we saw the big 5, lions, leopards, all of that sort of thing. So maybe I'll put together a little video on that as well. But it's definitely worthwhile, and I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you on the next one.